Blood sapphires are sitting in royal crowns right now, and unlike blood diamonds, there is absolutely no system to stop them. There is a far deadlier, completely unregulated gemstone quietly sitting in jewelry stores right now, and absolutely nobody is talking about it. This is the story of the blood sapphire, the dark secret of the gemstone trade, and the reason the most beautiful stones on earth might be the dirtiest things you can wear. For the last 20 years, the diamond industry worked very hard to convince you it cleaned itself up. After the wars in Sierra Leone, Angola, and Liberia in the 1990s, a coalition of governments, jewelers, and human rights groups built something called the Kimberley Process. The promise was simple. Every rough diamond crossing a border would come with a certificate. No certificate, no sale. Conflict diamonds would be locked out of the global market, and your engagement ring would no longer be paying for a civil war. The Kimberley Process is not perfect. Critics have pointed out for years that its definition of a conflict diamond is narrow, that loopholes exist, and that the system stops tracking a stone the moment it is polished. But on the most basic question, does the system exist at all? The answer for diamonds is yes. 60 participants, 86 countries, almost the entire global supply of rough diamonds is covered. Now ask the same question about a sapphire, a ruby, an emerald. The answer is no. There's no Kimberley Process for colored gemstones. No international certification scheme follows a sapphire from a pit in Madagascar to a counter in Manhattan. There's no border check, no government registry, no industry-wide audit. A rough sapphire, corundum, the same mineral family as rubies, can leave a mine controlled by an armed group, pass through 3 countries, get cut in a workshop nobody inspected, and end up in the window of a luxury retailer with absolutely no paper trail behind it. And nothing about that journey is illegal under international law. That gap is the entire problem. While the world watched the diamond, the sapphire trade quietly became one of the most opaque and violent corners of the luxury industry. And it has been hiding in plain sight because of one simple piece of marketing. Sapphires are royal. Diana wore one. Kate inherited it. The British crown is set with them. The cultural story of the sapphire is wisdom and nobility. The same story sold around the cashmere sapphire, the historic benchmark for the finest blue in the world, stones so rare and so coveted that a single one can sell for millions, and that story does a very effective job of keeping you from asking where exactly the stone in front of you came from. So let's actually ask. A significant portion of the world's finest sapphires and rubies come from a single mining region in northern Myanmar called Mogok. The country is currently run by a military junta that seized power in a coup in February of 2021. That same month, security forces began killing pro-democracy protesters in the streets. Within weeks, by April of 2021, the United States Treasury sanctioned Myanmar Gems Enterprise, the state-owned company that controls all aspects of the country's gemstone industry. The reason is straightforward. The Myanmar military takes a cut of every stone that comes out of the ground. The sanctions on paper were supposed to choke off that revenue. In practice, the gemstones kept moving. Stones are smuggled into Thailand, where the city of Chanathapuri has long been the world's cutting and trading hub for colored stones, or sold to China, where they are resold into the international market through countries that never signed on to the sanctions in the first place. By the time a ruby reaches a jeweler in Europe or the United States, its country of origin on the paperwork might read India or Thailand, even if the stone was pulled from a hillside in Mogok. And the situation has gotten more violent, not less. In July of 2024, an ethnic armed group called the Taang National Liberation Army seized Mogok from the junta. Control flipped back to the military in late 2025 under Chinese pressure. In April of 2026, the regime announced the discovery of an 11,000 carat rough ruby over 2 kilograms from the same valley. The stone is worth millions. Every dollar it earns flows through a system the United Nations has accused of genocide. There is no certificate in the world that will stop it from ending up on a finger somewhere in the West. That's the picture in Myanmar. Now travel 6,500 miles southwest to a town in southern Madagascar called Ilakaka. In 1998, Ilakaka was a roadside stop with about 40 residents. Then someone realized the stones a few prospectors had been selling as garnets were actually pink sapphires. Within a year, the population had exploded into the tens of thousands. Within a decade, this dot on a Malagasy highway was supplying close to half of the world's sapphires. It never became a city, it became a shanty town with a sapphire market. Today, Ilakaka is one of the most violent places in Madagascar. Artisanal miners, the industry term for the small-scale, often informal operators who dig by hand, work alongside large-scale operations. There is almost no regulation. There is constant conflict between miners, traders, and villagers, and large quantities of stones are smuggled out of the country every single day. The numbers are difficult to read. A single sapphire from Ilakaka can sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Over 90% of the local population lives on less than $2 a day. The men climbing in and out of 15-meter pits, sifting buckets of earth in the sun, earn the equivalent of €2 for a full day's work, and they have to surrender every stone they find to the company that owns the hole. And then there are the children. According to a survey of the region, of the 21,000 children who live around Ilakaka, 19,000 belong to families that work the sapphire mines. Some are as young as 10, digging pits up to 15 meters deep and carrying plastic sacks filled with air down into the pits so they can breathe. The pits collapse, the work kills people, miners are regularly found murdered, and the town sits under a quiet pressure where no one talks about why. This is the supply chain behind the most beautiful blue stone on earth, and almost none of it shows up on the price tag. You can see why the industry prefers not to talk about it. The cultural prestige of the sapphire is the whole product. When the marketing for the most expensive gemstones leans on royalty, on history, on the idea that the deeper the blue, the more refined the wearer, there's no room in that story for a 10-year-old in a pit. So the story doesn't get told. It gets crowded out by something gentler. A British princess, a Sri Lankan family heirloom, a photograph of a perfect sunlit ring. Some of that is even true. Sri Lanka, where the gem city of Ratnapura has been the heart of sapphire production for centuries, producing everything from the classic blue to the rare orange-pink Padparadsha, still produces some of the world's finest stones through small, family-owned operations that have existed for generations. Australia and Montana run regulated mines with traceable supply chains. There are international frameworks that should, in theory, help. The OECD due diligence guidance for responsible supply chains provides a blueprint for how mineral companies should trace their sourcing, and bodies like CIBJO, the World Jewelry Confederation, publish standards for ethical trading. The Responsible Jewelry Council runs an audited certification program that some major retailers have signed onto. And jewelers and laboratories like Gubelin, whose provenance proof blockchain and emerald paternity test represent some of the most serious attempts to embed traceability directly into a stone's record, are trying to build something like a Kimberley process for colored stones from scratch. Most stones are also heat treated after mining to improve color and clarity, a process that is itself largely undisclosed, adding yet another layer where the chain of custody can break down. It can all be done, it's just nowhere near finished. Until it is, the burden falls back on the buyer. If you are looking at a sapphire and the seller cannot tell you which country the rough came from, which mine it left, or how it traveled from there to the cutter, then the honest answer is they do not know either. In the gemstone trade, I do not know is almost always a polite way of saying that somewhere along the chain, someone made sure no one would have to. The diamond got its scandal in the 1990s, and the industry was forced to respond. The sapphire has not had its scandal yet. The mines in Mogok are still funding a military regime accused of genocide. The pits in Ilakaka are still swallowing children. The stones from both continue to arrive at the same store windows, polished and faceted and indistinguishable from anything else in the case. This is the dark secret of the gemstone trade. It is not that blood sapphires exist, it is that you have probably already seen one and no one ever told you. Please drop a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you're from. I would love to know.